Overheating camera can and will shut down as a safety measure to keep the internals and the sensor from getting damaged. However, if that happens while you are recording, you're gonna have to wait at least 5 to 10 minutes until the camera cools down before you can resume recording. And if the camera cuts off while you are recording, the footage can get lost and the files can get corrupted. And then you're gonna have a huge problem. So if you are shooting on a mirrorless DSLR, such as this A7S II that I have here, here's how to stop your camera from overheating and you potentially losing your files. So the first thing that you're gonna do is set your auto power off temp from standard to high. You are gonna get a warning saying that the camera is gonna run hotter to prioritize recording time. Just click OK and go with it. Now, this is the way to stretch your recording time longer, and that means that the camera is gonna run a little bit hotter before it eventually will shut off. But doing it this way will allow you to run the camera for at least 20 to 30% recording time longer versus in the standard setting. Recording in 4K heats up the camera faster as it requires more processing power. So if you don't have to record in 4K, just record in UHD and this will keep the temp lower. But if you are gonna have to record in 4K, go for the lower frame rate, so such as 24 frames versus 30 frames. That's gonna give you a little bit more leeway. Before filming or before recording, set your camera, dial everything in, make sure the framing is right, it's in focus, and shut the camera off. This is gonna allow it to cool down before you're actually gonna start recording and filming. So it's a little trick that I learned when I'm shooting like long interviews, and it definitely works. On an A7S II, you have the LCD screen that you can pull out. So doing it this way will allow the heat to dissipate and the camera to not sandwich the heat inside. So battery is a heat source. It's a heat generator. So what I would advise you to do is go with a dummy battery because it's hollow in the end. It only has the connector points. And also what I like to do is I like to pull the battery door off. It helps a little bit also. The type of memory card that you are recording onto matters. The general rule of thumb is the slower the memory card is, as in the lower writing speed it has, so let's say anywhere like below 90 megabytes a second, the more heat is going to get generated. So what I would advise you to do is go with a more professional SD card if you are recording specifically on the A7S II. I like going with Lexar because it has a writing speed of over 200 megs a second. So the faster it can get done recording, the less heat it's going to generate. A lot of the times we like to rig out the camera, we like to put a bunch of stuff on it, put a monitor on top, shotgun mic, and more stuff on it. So if you can keep it as clean as possible, this is gonna allow the heat to like dissipate, and hopefully the camera is gonna run a little bit cooler. And another thing about running an external monitor is if you are going to get like a recording monitor such as an Atomos Ninja 5 or Ninja V, you can actually record straight onto the monitor and you don't have to record on the camera internally, because believe it or not, the camera generates heat most of the times only when it is recording. It can idle for like a ton of time. So that way, if the camera is just idling but you are recording on the external monitor, the temperature should not rise as fast and you can record potentially for hours. Next one kind of goes without saying, but keep your camera away from any kind of heat source and also out of the direct sunlight. While filming, the camera is physically going to let you know that it's getting hot by a little heat indicator, and then it's going to start blinking. When it's going to start blinking, that's when you are going to be in trouble. So if you do have the possibility, cut the recording and then start a new take. So I started seeing the overheating issue with this Sony A7S II when I started using it for recording long form interviews. So anywhere from like an hour and a half to longer than that, where cutting in the middle of an interview is simply not an option. I had to watch the camera like a hawk and figure out like multiple ways of managing the recording and making sure that the camera would not cut. The longest that I've run the camera so far has been 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that was on the Michael Jai White interview. We pretty much ran continuously, but I did at about 1 hour and 45 minutes, I cut, and then I started a new take just to make sure. But so far, using the settings and using the techniques that I've just told you about, I have been able to run it for, like I said, the longest 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I have never yet had the camera cut. Now, granted, I've been recording only inside, as in indoors. If you are going to be recording outdoors and it's going to be, various, heat sources, you are going to have to take those into consideration. But most of the times you should have no problem recording for about 1.5 hours without camera shutting down. So that's it for today, guys. If you do have any kind of questions, leave them down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Freeman, and I'm going to check you guys out next time. Peace out.